Okay, in this video we want to look at determining exact values of sine, cos, and tan. The way we're going to do this, and the way that I really suggest doing this, is to use the triangle 1, 2, root 3 with the angles pi on 3, pi on 6. This is much simpler than using something like the unit circle, and it's very easy to remember because you just go 1, 2, 3, just remembering to put a square root on the 3, and the way to remember that pi on 6 goes here is just that 6 is big, 3 is big, put them together. That's all that I've used to remember these. So that's what we're going to use for the moment. The other one that I just recommend remembering is that sine pi on 4 is 1 on root 2, cos pi on 4 is 1 on root 2, and since tan is sine over cos, we'll have that tan pi on 4 is 1. Okay, so let's do this in practice. So we have sine pi on 3. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So remember we have SOHCAHTOA. What this means is that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so opposite of pi on 3 is root 3, and the hypotenuse is 2, so sine of pi on 3 is root 3 on 2. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, so adjacent to pi on 3 is 1, hypotenuse is 2, so cos pi on 3 is 1/2, and tan pi on 6 is opposite over adjacent, so it's 1 on root 3. Okay, so here it gets a little more challenging. We need to use a different technique, so we need to use, we'll still use the triangle, but we also have to remember that if we draw the quadrants, so here I've got 0 to pi on 2, that's the first quadrant, pi on 2 to pi is this second quadrant, pi to 3 pi on 2 is the third quadrant, and 3 pi on 2 to 2 pi is the fourth quadrant. What we have to do is write down A, S, T, C. The way I remember it is all students talk crap, and what this means is that between 0 and pi on 2, sine, cos, and tan are all positive. In this second quadrant, between pi on 2 and pi, only sine is positive. Tan is only positive between pi and 3 pi on 2, and cos is the only one that's positive between 3 pi on 2 and 2 pi. When we look at graphing the trigonometric functions, I'll convince you that this is indeed the case. So let's look at this. We have tan 5 pi on 6. Now 5 pi on 6, well 5 on 6 is bigger than 1/2 because it's close to 1, but it's less than 1. So in particular what we see is that if we multiply everything in this inequality by pi, then 5 pi on 6 is bigger than pi on 2, which is less than pi. So in particular we're in this second quadrant here. So since sine is the only one that's positive, we'll see that tan 5 pi on 6, is going to be negative. Now what negative value it is just going to be the negative of what it would be in the first quadrant. So we're just going to remove this 5. And what's tan pi on 6? Well, we calculated it here, it was 1 on root 3. So what we get here is minus 1 on root 3. Okay, so next one we have is cos minus pi on 3. So that lies in this quadrant. It lies about here because we've gone backwards. If it's minus, it goes clockwise, positive is anti-clockwise. So cos pi on 3, which we'll write over here, is, well, cos is positive, so cos of minus pi on 3 is the same as cos of pi on 3. And cos pi on 3, we calculated before, is 1/2. Okay, for the last one, 7 pi on 6, so 1 is less than 7 on 6, but that's less than 3 on 2. So what we'll find is that pi is less than 7 pi on 6 is less than 3 pi on 2. And so we're in the third quadrant, so we're here. Since tan is the only thing that's positive, we'll see that sine 7 pi on 6 is negative, and it's negative of what it would be in the first quadrant, so negative sine pi on 6, and we have not calculated sine of pi on 6, but sine of pi on 6 is opposite over hypotenuse, so it's 1/2. So what we end up with is minus 1/2. Okay, so let's do some more examples. Here we've got tan of minus 3 pi on 4. So 3 on 4 is bigger than 1/2, but less than 1. So if we go clockwise, let me draw these quadrants again. So if I draw them here, so all students talk crap, then if I go this way, well, that's a whole pi along, but I only want to go 3/4 of that way. So I'm in this tan quadrant, so tan is positive. So this is the same as tan of pi on 4. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is one you just memorize. Tan of pi on 4 is just 1. Okay, so cos 7 pi on 6. We saw 7 pi on 6 before. That lies in this third quadrant as well. So 7 pi on 6 lands you about here. So cos of 7 pi on 6 is negative because tan is positive in this one. So we have negative cos pi on 6. And cos pi on 6, have we calculated that yet? What is cos pi on 6? Well, we can just do adjacent over hypotenuse, so we get √3 on 2. So minus √3 on 2. Okay, and for the last one, we have sine of minus pi on 6. That is about here, so we're in this fourth quadrant. So sine of minus pi on 6 is minus sine of pi on 6, and sine of pi on 6, have we calculated this one? Yes, we would have done it before, so sine of pi on 6 is 1/2, so I get minus 1/2. And that's it. In terms of practicing this, of course, we have the tutorial notes in the video description with the fully worked solutions in the cheat notes, also available in the video description. The first thing to worry about is examples like this, just making sure you're readily available to, firstly, draw up this triangle, have this triangle memorized, have these values memorized, knowing you have SOHCAHTOA and so on. Once you get comfortable with that, start looking at this quadrant. The quadrant is the same every time. Just remember that positive is anti-clockwise, while negative is clockwise. And then just keep practicing this. You need to make sure you can do this very quickly because it's very important for complex numbers, calculus. It's a very important topic. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, and if you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing. Okay guys, I'll see you in the next video.